As a leader, we have to do the hard things sometimes. And that includes telling other people what sometimes they need to hear. But that also includes ourselves. But here's what I found, is there's 3 times that being hard on yourself or pushing through actually does a disservice for you and everybody you're leading. And even though my brain continues to try and trick me into forcing it and pushing through, I've realized every time I have, it's actually set me back months, if not years. Now, when I hear people say, just push through it, there is some truth to that, but I found that there's a few times that this in fact actually hurts us. That's why we want to share why it's not always a good thing to be hard on yourself, especially in these 3 situations. Let's jump into time number 1.
Time number 1 is when your physical and mental health are being affected. When you're overly stressed, not getting enough sleep, and you're barely keeping your head above water. You're going to hear a lot of people saying, just push through. But that's not always the best advice. Logically, it makes sense. You can't pour from an empty cup. But also we have to think about how we're showing up during these situations. The suck it up mentality has never worked for us when it's something that was affecting our mental and physical health. That's one of the reasons why Marc developed an autoimmune disease, because he had that mentality for so long. So instead, give yourself some grace and recover so you can get back in the game 100%.
That's such a critical time to not push yourself through. Now, like Teresa said, I developed an autoimmune disease because I would push through everything. I'm actually kind of proud of myself this last week because as I had a flare, I ended up doing something that I'd never done before. I canceled all of my one-on-one coaching calls in a time where my brain was saying, no, Marc, you just have to show up. But how was I really going to show up on those calls if I couldn't think, if I didn't have any energy? I really feel like I'd be doing them a disservice. But I especially would be doing myself a disservice because it probably would have taken me out a few extra days. Instead, realizing that I should give myself some grace and also be able to show up for my clients like they truly deserved, I rescheduled those, and I gotta tell you, it helped me recover much faster, but it's also gonna help me bring even more energy to the session that I would have never had. Now, this brings us to the second time when we found it's actually detrimental to be hard on yourself, and that is when you are personally attacking yourself or your worthiness. You see, I knew I sucked as a leader. I was never gonna be a good father. I was never gonna succeed in business. And I knew that I would never make the right decision. I found that sometimes we can take this idea of extreme ownership to the extreme level, meaning we don't just take ownership of it, we actually make it be a part of our personality, our worthiness, and our persona. We literally think that it means that we're a failure and we're not worthy of success. But it doesn't have anything to do with that. You see, you were born worthy, and there's nothing that can take it away from you. If you've got kids, is there something that you think they can do that would make them any less worthy, or maybe you not love them? Well, if the same is true for them, then it's also true for you too. So no actions you've taken, no thoughts that you've had, and definitely no failure that you've experienced makes you any less worthy. Now, I used to think that being hard on myself when things like that happened would actually get me to show up better. Only it never did. You see, being hard on myself would always compound into more negativity, and it was very hard to reframe that situation because my brain was convincing me that it was a personal attack on me. I mean, whenever I had a quote-unquote failure, there was so much opportunity to learn from that experience, but any moment that I spent spinning in my mind about how this made me a bad leader, a bad person, a bad parent, would actually prevent me from learning that lesson and moving on. So when you start to feel like you deserve it, I want you to knock it off. I want you to get back up because the fight isn't over. It's just begun. And you are the perfect person to step into this role at this time. I want you to realize this. No amount of you being hard on yourself and devaluing your worth is going to help you show up any better next time. I want you to really think about situations in the past and when you have been hard on yourself and ask yourself, how did I show up not only that day, but the next? And if you have been hard on yourself, welcome to the human race. Welcome to having a brain. This is what success looks like. But now you know different, and I hope you're willing to lean into this by giving yourself a little bit more grace.
And the third time it's not a good idea to be hard on yourself is in front of others or your kids. If you're doing any of these 2 things above, we'd love it if you'd stop. But some of you might still be hesitant, which is why we want to bring in your family and those you lead into this. Because if you're doing this to yourself, you are also teaching them through your own actions that they should do that to themselves as well. You ultimately are modeling the behavior. And if anything can help me personally change my own actions, it's realizing that what I'm doing is affecting other people in a negative way. Don't forget, because to them, you are a superhero, their leader, the person that they respect and trust. And if you're beating yourself up, they're only naturally going to model that behavior as well. So if for nothing else, show them how to have compassion for themselves by leaning into what we talked about today, and give yourself and them the grace they all deserve.
Now you might get to this point and wonder, okay, great, Mark, but when can I be hard on myself? There actually are some times that you want to lean into that. And don't worry, we got you covered. Tap the screen to watch this next video. In the video, I shared how to build mental toughness just like I did with the 75 Hard by implementing the 75 Hard strategies into my business. Thank you for being here, leader. We appreciate you more than you know. Above all, keep leading from the front, and we'll see you on the next video. Bye.